Okay, looks like it's time. So, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining me this morning for a second day of Trailhead DX and my session about Picklists. My name is Vladimir. I'm a senior product manager here at Salesforce. I've been with Salesforce for about 3 years now. I started as an engineer and then I switched to a dark side and became product manager. How many of you were here for my other session yesterday about custom metadata types? Oh boy. I only got 2 jokes approved by HR, PR, and legal, so I used them all yesterday. I'm going to repeat them today. Pretend that you never heard them. So before we start and move forward, I would like to show you something really mind-blowing, something you've never seen before, something that just forward-looking statement. Just forward-looking statement. So I just want to remind everyone, if you haven't heard about it yet, that please do not make any purchasing decisions based on anything that is not released, only based it on features at GA. Most of my presentation is covering features that are already publicly available, but I might accidentally cover things that are still in development or not even planned. So, for today's agenda, I want to talk about why picklists. What's so special about that field? Like, really, only at Salesforce someone can speak 30 minutes about drop-downs. So, we're going to talk about picklist value management, how to effectively manage your values as an admin, so your organization can benefit from all the features that we released. We're going to talk about restricted picklists and why and when to use them. The answer is always, but like we'll go into details. And I would like to cover global value sets. And by the way, if you stay long enough, I have some stickers. Those are limited edition. So we started a journey on improving experience with picklists, I would say almost 2 years ago. Our main goal was to introduce global value sets. Those went GA, as far as I remember, winter 16. And after that, we also delivered some other features. So, but why and when use picklists? So, unless you never use a picklist field, this slide is for you. So, picklists provide you a static set of values. So, a user, your end user, your sales team, your marketing team, when they create a record, they can select it from drop-down. And that set of values is controlled by the administrator. So it's always fixed. There's less chances of typos. And it's also good for mobile, right? When you're on a phone, I'm sure you don't want to type something. You rather select it from the list, just scrolling up and down. And for the rest of my presentation, I would like to introduce you to Joyce. So Joyce is a small business owner. She runs Macaron Store. And she's also an experienced Salesforce administrator and maybe a little bit a developer. So in her store, there are tons of different delicious flavors of macarons. And since she's Salesforce administrator, all her macarons flavors are powered by picklists. So you can see here like flavors like strawberry, raspberry, black sesame. She can select all of them from a picklist. But how does it work behind the scene? So if you look into Metadata API, each picklist value, in fact, is represented by 4 different things. First of all, it's a full name, also known as an API name. So each picklist value is identified by API name. Then we have a label. That's something you see in UI when you create a record, something that you select from UI page, from your mobile app. Then you have a flag to tell user if that value is default or not. So in my previous slide, you can see the raspberry probably is defaulted value. And it tells you if that value is active or inactive. And we're going to talk about all of those things in more details later. So as a small business owner, Joyce runs into different problems. But because she's on top of the technology, she knows how to overcome them. One of the problems she runs pretty often is, for some particular day, a flavor of her macaron can be sold out. Let's say today raspberry was super popular and it got sold out. Before, the only way to deal with that is to delete that value, so it wouldn't show up in the UI anymore. So right now, with introduction of active and inactive values, you can go to your setup and just deactivate value. What deactivation means, in fact, is that that value would not be available in UI, but it still will be preserved in all of your records. So if you create some sales records where you sold the raspberry flavored macarons in the past, those records will still contain that value, but you would not be able to create any new records unless you activate that value back. So that's a big difference between deactivating and deleting. When you delete a value, you have two options. You have either have to replace it with another value, and then it will update all of your records, or you have to replace it with null, which means that all the records would not have any value at all. So another problem she runs into is, well, she wants to do daily promotions. She wants to have a daily flavor of her macarons that she promotes to her customers. And in the past, it was a lot of pain because every time she changed the label of the picklist value, she has to update all her formulas and Apex code. So this is no longer a problem with API names that we introduced 2 releases ago. So right now, each picklist value has a label and an API name. And an API name, it's something that stays and doesn't change that often, versus like label, you change it more often, like based on your marketing department, based on your business needs. And in her case, she has a picklist with API name daily flavor, and she can change that label daily based on what flavor she wants to promote. Pretty cool. And new flavor doesn't mean that she needs to update any of her sockles. For instance, here she just querying to see how many daily flavor macarons she sold, and she uses API name instead of a label. So this sockle query would always work, no matter what is the current flavor of macaron she has. And it's also available in Apex. So if any of you writes Apex code, you can now access the picklist label and picklist API name through Apex. In my example, I'm simply iterating through all of the picklist values in my picklist field, and I'm printing out a label, and I use getLabel. It's a new function for that, and I use getValue to retrieve API name. So in the past, if you look into a Metadata API, in the past, there wasn't any difference between your label and API name. All you had in your Metadata API was full name, and it had to be equal to your label. So every time you change label, you change API name. Now, you have 2 different things, starting Metadata API 38. And because of that, you can keep your integration safe, you can keep your formula safe, you can keep your sockle safe, you can keep your Apex safe, so all of those places. But her business is not all about picklist value management. When she bought that business, the previous owner didn't do a good job of keeping track of the sales. He or she used Excel spreadsheets. And now she's dealing with the fact that she has to import a lot of things. And when you import data into a picklist, I'm sure a lot of you face that problem, that if the particular value does not exist on a picklist, then you end up with tons of inactive picklists in your org. And in my experience, we have seen orgs that have 10,000 inactive picklist values for one field, just because they do very intensive data import, and very often there are typos, there are like things that shouldn't be there, and there's no like really easy way to clean it up. So she knows that her answer is restricted picklist. So restricted picklists were introduced pretty much together at the same time with global value set. So what restricted picklists allow you to do is you can mark a specific field as restricted, and every time you import something or you try to create a record through Metadata API or any other API, it will validate that this value is present on your picklist field. So it would not allow you to create a record if that value hasn't been specified by your administrator already. And for restricted picklists, we allow up to 1,000 inactive and active values combined, and that's the only limit we have. So all you need to do to switch your fields to restricted mode today and prevent from problems is just to go to the field definition, click Edit, and check one small checkboxes. And in the UI, if you create a new field, we always suggest it to do by default, so that option is always selected for you. So with all those cool features, her business is growing, and she's thinking about expanding it. And what is the better way to expand it rather than introduce some ice creams? So she wants to start selling ice cream at her store. But she already came up with all those cool flavors like black sesame, French vanilla, I don't know, Earl Grey tea, green tea matcha, and so on. So she wants to reuse all of those flavors in her ice cream. And because she's an awesome admin, she knows that the answer is global value set. So global value sets allow you to take all your values, specify them in one place, and then when you create a field, just reference that value set. So no longer you have to deal with the two sets of exact same values, keep them in sync, make sure that they still match. You specify your values once through a global value set, and when you create a new pick list or multi-select pick list, you just reference that field to a particular global value set. It removes a lot of unnecessary work for administrators, and in the past we've seen people having 3, 4, 5, sometimes 10 different pick lists with pretty much exactly the same set of values. And every time they need to update it, they have to go through each and single field and do that work. So that's no longer necessary if you use global value set. And if you look behind the scene for metadata, so how does it work? So on my left side of the screen, you have a field. So in the field, instead of specifying all the values under the value set tag, it has a what we call value set name. And that value set name references to global value set, a top-level metadata API object, which is a flavor is the API name of that global value set. So when you create one field that uses global value set and you retrieve it through metadata API, that's something you would probably see. So you have a value set name that references a global value set that you created. But some of you already like in their heads like, but what about existing pick lists? So she already created that field that stores information about macarons. What can she do about it? Does it mean that she has to delete it and recreate it? Well, with Summer 17, we releasing a promotion feature, so where you can take a single field and promote it to global value set. What it will do to your field, it will take the single pick list, a multi-select pick list field, and create a global value set with all the values and make that field reference it. So Joyce can take her existing macaron field, promote it to global value set called flavor, and then create another field that would use those values, like for ice cream. So this feature is available with Summer 17. And so it should be in your production, in your sandboxes, in your dev environment, so you should feel free to go and play around with that. The only limitation of this is that field has to be restricted. And it means that you cannot have more than 1,000 active and inactive values in your pick list. And honestly, if you have more than 1,000 values in your dropdown, I think something is wrong. Well, now she wants to move it even further. Every day she wants to have a separate promotion for ice cream and her macarons. So each day she wants to have a different flavor of her macarons and ice creams on promotion. But with global value set, the only way to set up a default is to a specific value, and that default value would be same for all the fields you created. Well, we're changing that with Summer 17 as well. So with Summer 17, we're announcing field formula-based default values for pick list field. So now, same as you do with numbers, text, and other types of fields, you can use a formula to specify your default value. And because you specify this on a field level, you can have a field that use global value set to use different defaults. In my example, for instance, Joyce wants to have different flavors on promotion for a holiday season. She wants to have a gingerbread flavor for January and December, and pumpkin for October and November. And for any other day, she wants to use a daily flavor, whatever she specifies. So that's a way to use a formula. One question that might come up is like, well, what if I put something that is not does not exist in correct picklist value, or the values that I already deleted? What would happen to this formula? Well, the way this formula works, first, it tries to resolve the formula to an existing active picklist value. If it's not happening, for instance, your value is deactivated for now, then it goes and look up if you set up a default the old way on a value level. Like in my example, orange flavor is a default that set up the old style. So if there is a default like that, then it will be resolved to that default. And if you have not set up any defaults at all, then your record would not have a default value. Pretty straightforward. And with all those cool features, Joyce feels super confident that she can take her business to a new level, and especially because we're increasing the limits for global value sets. So we're increasing it from 500 to 1,000, so it's in parity with all the fields we have. So now your global value set can have up to 1,000 values. And this is also starting summer 17. So it's all of those features already available. Some of them being available for multiple releases. Some of them are just coming in summer 17. And I would like to show you a small demo of everything I talked about. And by the way, all the demos are live, so if something doesn't work, you know it's real. So I have my org here. I hope you all seen it before. This is Lightning Experience. So in my org, I already created a Macaron Store app. So let's take a look. So in my Macaron Store, I have a Macaron Sales. So I can take a look and see that we sent 10 raspberry macarons, 15 black sesame, and so on. So what I want to do is I want to demo you, first of all, how inactive and active values work, and then how formula field works, and then how to promote the field to global value set. So let's take a look into the setup. So I'll go to Object Manager, and I'll search for my Macaron cell. Let's go to fields. There's a field called flavor, which is a pick list. And you can see that I currently I'm running out of pumpkin flavor. So if I go and create a new record, I would not see a pumpkin in the list. I can bring it back by activating it. And also, I already set up a raspberry as a default value. So that's why you see raspberry here already selected. So now let's make it a little bit more complex and add a formula default. So all I need to do is go and click Edit. And you will see that box here. Same way as a text field or number field works, this text box would be available during the creation of the field or when you added the field. So, and I have my formula already here. So same as on my slide, I want to have a different flavors for different holiday seasons, and on any other month, I want to use a daily flavor. So what I do here, I take what's a day today, what month is today, and then I do a switch case based on the month. Let's save it. So what I would expect to see is that, and I don't have a daily flavor in my set, so what I can do right now is I can go edit the field and change an API to be daily flavor. So black sesame now is a daily flavor. So if I refresh my page here and create a new record, I see raspberry, and that's because it's cached. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna relog into my org, and that happens sometimes with Lightning when things get cached. Let's try again. As I said, it's all live with all the bugs we have. Black sesame. So the problem was that the value got cached in a browser. So you either have to relog into your org or you create a browser cache. But hopefully it doesn't happen that often. So now let's take a look on how can we promote this field into global value set. I refresh my page. So when I edit my pick list, you will see this field, this button available. All I need to do is click, and it pops me to the second screen when I need to specify a name of a value set that I want to create. In my case, it makes sense to name it flavor. Now let's click promote. So here what happened. Now we're on a field details page, and now this field uses a global value set flavor. It still has all the values, but now those values only editable from a value set. So if I go to setup and I go to value set, I would see my flavor value set here with all the values available. And if I go and try to create a new field, let's say, I don't know, just for a demo purpose, I would create a flavor field on account, let's say, or a contact. What flavors that contact prefers. Can create new. I'll select the pick list. Click next. And I can call it preferred flavor. Now I can select my global value set from a drop down here instead of specifying all the values manually. So I'll select flavor. And I'll click next. So now if I go to my contact and try to create a new one, I should see a preferred flavor here. And it's default to raspberry because on that field I have not set up a formula-based default. So it takes whatever is the default for global value set. So that's an additional level of control you have as an administrator on what you want to select as a default value. Pretty cool, right? So now let's go back to the slides. I would like to invite everyone to check release notes and see and read more about the features we released in summer 17 around Picklist. I also wrote a couple blog posts in the past. And Trailhead, a good news, Trailhead for Picklist is coming. Hopefully this year we'll have a separate Picklist Trailhead that would cover all those cool features that we just talked about. And please join me in the success group. In the success community, we have a Picklist group for, it's called Global Restricted Picklist. I'm pretty active there. You can ask questions. Other team members would be able to assist you as well. And follow me on Twitter. Thank you. And we can move to Q&A now. Yes? What's that? Can you override formula for global picklist? So a global value set itself does not have a formula-based default. The formula-based default is only on a field. So you're already overriding it. So you can, on a global value set, you select a single value the old way you used to do. And then each field, you can have a separate formula to calculate. So let's say on my contact, I can have a formula that picks a flavor based on a user profile. On my Macaron sale, it's based on a month. On my another field, it's based on an hour. So each field would have a different formula. Yes? That's pretty much you have to do manually for the rest of the two fields. I know that's painful. We released a small app on an IdeaExchange called Picklist Merge, but pretty much it does what you do manually. It just recreates that field with a different name. So yeah, you still will have to do a lot of work after. It just like simplifies the matching records and stuff.
can you use global pick lists with field dependencies?
Yes.
Oh, you can?
Yes, there's a field. You can use it, yes.
Okay. I'll have to check. One of my admins said he couldn't do that with a global list.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can use the field, not the value set, though. But we can chat about it.
Hey, what about active, inactive values? Do those get promoted up to global, or is that per field?
Those goes to global.
So, like
So the global value set defines which are active and which inactive.
So for like your example, the macaroons,
Yeah.
you had pumpkins inactive, so you couldn't have that be active on.
Yeah. So the probably way you wanna overcome it is through record types.
Okay.
So if you have different record types per field, you can specify which values go to each record type on particular field. Even they use global value set.
I have a question about the label of the daily flavor. If you change the label for the daily flavor like you showed, won't it change existing records? So
No, what it's stored inside the database is API name. So on your record you would see a new label, yes, but you know that it's like a daily flavor.
so
But inside, when you do reporting, for instance, you can select based on API name. So those records would still show up.
So, but if the daily flavor last month was black sesame and now you changed it to strawberry, if someone bought black sesame last month, what will the report show? Strawberry or black sesame?
Report would show you whatever is the current daily flavor. So you know that those people bought daily flavors. So you have to somehow store information about what was your daily flavor label for the last month. Yeah, so yeah, the answer is like, yeah, it would change the label on the records.
And another question I have, let's say you have now 5 objects with the same pick list and you want to promote to a global pick list. So do you have to promote one object and then go to the other objects and edit them to use that global pick list?
There is no easy way, unfortunately, to do that. And I think it's a similar question as a gentleman asked. You will have to probably recreate those fields. Yeah. You can probably end up with some Apex code that can match the records to simplify it. We have the app for that, but the short answer, yes, you'll still end up recreating that field. Yeah. Yes. Oh, stickers? Yeah, I have a stickers. Sorry. Don't take them all.
Hi. Here.
Sorry. Oh.
So is the global value set available in Classic?
Yes, they're available in Classic and Lightning.
Okay. So that's fine.
Yeah. Oh, I think. Well, thank you very much. Oh, more question?
For example, you had macaroons and ice. What if the, let's say, raspberry? Asking directly. The macaroons anymore, you still have the ice.
That's a good question. Yeah, you can only disable it per global value set. Yeah, that might be not the best example to present for flavors. Yeah, so deactivation means it would not be available for both fields. Yeah.
Something more static will be fine.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's a good feedback. Maybe like I need to modify my slides a little bit to cover that up. Yeah, that's a good point though.